Good morning and welcome to our lesson today where I want us to talk about delegation. Remember in the other lesson we mentioned about the principles. Remember when we mentioned about the principles of management, we spoke about certain features. And one of the features we spoke about was organization, which I think we've actually discussed before. And organization refers to the, giving out certain responsibilities to the juniors or to the subordinates. So delegation actually refers to the process of assigning formal authority and responsibility to juniors or to their subordinates with an objective of achieving the company's or the organization's goals. Therefore, delegation is very, very necessary in an organization. So we have certain principles, that need to be factored in when we are delegating. But before we get there, we would need to understand what are some of the challenges that come with delegation. Remember, we say delegation is assigning certain duties that are supposed to be performed by the superiors or by the supervisors to the subordinates. Therefore, this process also comes with its own challenges, and those are what we call the barriers to delegation. One of the barriers to delegation is what we call the negative personal attitude. Some managers don't have the confidence, they lack confidence and trust in their subordinates, and therefore they find it very difficult to be able to delegate. We also say another barrier is unreceptiveness of the other people's view. So sometimes some managers have a problem of welcoming other people's view. Therefore, they don't delegate. We also say sometimes the managers are not willing to let go. Let go means assigning some of their duties and responsibilities to the subordinates, because they feel if they assign some duties to the subordinates are able to perform better than them. Another barrier is unwillingness to let other people or the subordinates to make mistakes. Remember, we said mistakes are part of learning. Therefore, subordinates should be allowed to make mistakes, but managers fear that if they are assigned certain duties to these subordinates, the mistakes that they would make, would make them look incompetent. Therefore, they don't delegate. Okay. We also talk about another challenge to this is the perceived threat. Some people feel, some managers feel, when they delegate, they are able to lose their positions, and therefore they refrain from delegating to the subordinates. Okay. Another challenge is what we call the feeling of inadequacy. Somebody who feels that if they delegate, their weaknesses might come out. Okay, so therefore they are not able to delegate. So to avert these challenges, to avert these worries that come with the delegation, it is very important to follow a certain guideline. What are some of the guidelines that we need to follow to ensure that we get or we have effective delegation? One of it is grant proper amount of authority. Yeah, so when you talk about this, you are referring to um, giving out responsibilities for results cannot be greater than the authority delegated. So here we're trying to say, when you delegate, also ensure that you assign that person or that subordinate the authority to make certain decisions. Yeah, don't delegate and limit them. So the principle of granting proper amount of authority means delegate while at the same time assign the subordinate the authority to make certain decisions. Also, to ensure that we have effective delegation, ensure that you explain to the subordinates the results that you are expecting. Yeah, define the results. Yeah, as a result of delegation or delegating that particular task, make sure that you're able to advise the subordinates of the expected results. We also talk about considering the capabilities of the subordinate. Don't just delegate. Don't just assign the tasks and the responsibility. Ensure that the subordinate that you plan to assign this specific task, they are competent enough to be able to handle them. Okay? Then also make sure that authority is clearly defined, yeah, is clearly stated. Yeah, as a result of the delegation, certain problems would come up. Okay, and now when this problem comes up, ensure that the subordinates, ensure that the relationship is clear, not only to the subordinates but to all other people concerned. Okay, then modify the authority where necessary. Talk about authority. When you delegate, you do not delegate with full authority. So sometimes circumstances might force you to be able to adjust the authority that you had given to the subordinate. Okay, then another way is to develop a willingness to delegate. Yeah, sometimes the line managers have a fear. Remember, we talked about the causes. What are some of the challenges? Yeah, it's the fear to let go. So a remedy for that is to ensure that you develop that attitude of delegating, but at the same time not have the fear. So when you are willing to delegate, you are able to guide the subordinate as they walk the journey of carrying out their tasks and responsibility. Okay, then of course we have the free communication. Yeah, free communication means you should be able to come in between and try to initiate a conversation or a communication channel with the subordinate. Okay, effectively. Yeah, so those are some of the strategies or guidelines that are very useful when it comes to delegation. Okay, then we need to understand what are some of the advantages of delegation. Why is it important to delegate? Or what happens when delegate? How does the organization benefit. So we say delegation enhances prompt action as no consultation is needed before decisions are made. Yeah. So here we are trying to say when the subordinates are given certain tasks, yeah, there is prompt feedback, yeah, as there is no consultation before decisions are made. We also say it enables the superior to perform higher levels of responsibilities. Yeah, so if they're able to assign other responsibilities to the subordinates, they are able to concentrate on higher levels of work. Okay? It also helps the subordinates to develop themselves professionally. Yeah, because if you are assigned certain tasks, you are able to prove yourself and perhaps you are able to improve on your career. We also say decisions are likely to be better made between the lower levels of the organization where the problems are. So the same mode of the same delegation also has got its own disadvantages. So what are some of the disadvantages of delegation? We say sometimes the subordinate might make very serious mistakes. As a result of performing those duties, they might make some very serious mistakes. And some of these mistakes, the superiors will take up responsibility. Okay? We also say the subordinate may have the knowledge and the skills to do their delegated work, but they might not put in maximum effort as the supervisor would. Yeah, so you've been given certain tasks, you have the capability, but you don't maximize on it according to how your supervisor would have wanted it to be. We also say when you assign responsibility without authority, the delegated work might not be done effectively. So when you assign certain duties, that's what I say, it is important for you to assign also the authority. Authority means giving the subordinate an opportunity to make a decision. We also say that another disadvantage is that sometimes when you delegate work to someone who avoids decision, he will not make mistake, but the work will suffer. When you have that thing of because I have been given this task, so I'll make sure I don't make any mistake. So what happens? Maybe in terms of productivity, there's a lot of delay, or the person is not able to do as much as is required of them. Okay, so I hope up to that point I'm very clear. So we also have another method of delegation which we call the decentralization. Now, this method of delegation revolves around an organization where the power and control are systematically delegated to the lower levels in an organization. Yeah, so decentralization, yeah, the powers and controls are systematically, yeah, delegated to a lower level in an organization. Yeah, we say sometimes in an organization the environment could be complex and uncertain, and therefore when lower talented and want more say in decision making, and when the decision being made are relatively minor. So this decentralization revolves around the lower management levels. Okay? Yeah, so remember the opposite of decentralization is centralization. Yeah, so centralization means the powers and the authority are kept at the superior level, whereas decentralization means the power and authority is kept at the lower levels of management. Okay? Yeah, so when we talk about decentralization, we say it revolves certain levels. Yeah, it revolves certain levels. We say it involves determining what authority to push down to subordinate. Because remember, you cannot delegate everything. So you need to identify what authority you will need to push down to the subordinate. Yeah, we also talk about developing policies and procedures to guide subordinates on how to use these procedures. So you need to identify ways and procedures how you should be able to guide the subordinates. We also need to ensure that you control the use of these. Therefore, it is very important for us to come up with certain factors, yeah, that will determine the degree of decentralization, which we say it is the delegation at the lower level, whereas centralization is the assigning of power and authority to the at the superior level. Okay, so we talk about we say the decisions that are to be made at the lower levels. We need to determine the numbers, yeah, of decisions that are to be made at the lower level. Yeah, so we say here the greater the number, the greater the degree of decentralization. We'll also need to identify the importance of the decisions. If the decisions that are made at the lower level affect important aspects of the organization, then the degree of decentralization will be restricted or it will be limited. We also talk about the need for uniformity in policy. Yeah, so usually where uniformity is required, centralization is favored. Okay, so what are some of the advantages of decentralization? So decentralization, we say it is the assigning of power and authority at the lower level. What are some of the advantages of this method? Is people working in the line units can make quick decision, yeah, and without referring to their supervisors all the time. Okay, we also say conditions or decisions that concern certain conditions and situations are flexible and adaptable. We also say sometimes the top managers are relieved of their duties, of their workload, because remember they are very busy people. Therefore, when other people make decisions on their behalf, they are left to concentrate on important issues. Okay, the same method also has its own disadvantages. We say it is difficult to get capable managers who are well motivated and responsible for handling additional responsibility. Yeah, so you need to have very skilled managers, yeah, who will not feel intimidated to assign certain duties and responsibilities. So we say it can also lead to inconsistent treatment of customers or members of the public, which can also lead to loss of jobs. of jobs in an organization. Also, this method also, it is difficult to exercise control and coordination of activities in a decentralized organization. Therefore, in conclusion, it is better off if an organization uses decentralized method, yeah, but maintain adequate control and responsibility. Okay, so remember we talked about centralization, where we said it is the where authority is handled by very few. So centralization means the power and responsibility is only handled by a few members in an organization at the top level. Okay, so what are some of the advantages of this method? Is that decisions are quickly made. These are the main key people, so therefore when they make decisions, it becomes very fast. Yeah, we also say the quality of decisions that are made are higher because the people who make those decisions are better skilled, yeah, they have experience, and therefore their decisions are very effective. Yeah, so it's also possible to reduce the number of managers, as this will also have an impact on labor workforce. So some of the disadvantages of this method is that the rules and regulations are functional, hence employees feel that their superiors work under, they work under threats. Yeah, we also say customers responsiveness is low, as the top managers are not near the customers. So decisions that are made, yeah, could be a bit prolonged because there's no contact between the customers and the management. Okay, so it is very important for us to be able to understand this, and therefore we are able to know amongst the ways of delegation which is the best method of delegation. I want to end my video there. Then I want to talk in the next lesson. I want to talk about the span of control. Otherwise, have a good day. Bye for now.